On this episode of the Who Is This podcast, we have an awesome conversation with Presley Moes. Presley tells us all about M Industries and Motes Homes, one of our awesome local contractors here in the Gila Valley. We talk about the different types of value they bring to their clients when building them their home, and how that value expands far beyond just saving money. They build absolutely beautiful custom homes, and they build them quick. When they say your home will be done by a certain date, they mean it and they make it happen. Presley also tells us about his background playing collegiate football and the life lessons he learned being a part of that type of organization. We had a great time having this extremely informational conversation with Presley. Enjoy. So this is our new studio now. Thanks.
Presley talked us into this.
I'm glad Davis had the idea. I was just, here for it.
Was it your idea or was it his idea?
Oh, it's his idea.
And then you agreed,
didn't like it, and I was like, yep.
You agree immediately. Yeah. So I like it. I think this will be good.
I think so too.
We're talking about moving the furniture around for those who.
Yeah. If you're an avid listener, if something looks different, we just adjusted everything on a whim. So, and I like it.
Yeah.
We'll see if it helps with the sound too.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So, Presley Moes, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
We're excited. We've been talking about it for doing it with you for 3 or 4 weeks now.
Schedule's a little complicated, so thanks for being patient with me.
No, absolutely, man. We understand. We get it. So
you're really like the first person that's in our industry that we've had on the podcast.
I noticed that. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we've talked. I mean, we have some real estate agents that we'll have on eventually. Surprisingly, we don't have, not surprisingly, but when we first started doing this, we're like, it might be hard convincing people to do it. And it hasn't been at all. Like it's a very laid back conversation. Some people are just like, no, not my thing. But I mean, yeah, we got real estate agents that will have different contractors. But yeah, Davis is right. This will be an informational one too, because we can talk about how, our two industries kind of intertwine.
For sure.
Things like that. So
yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. I think you're crazy and I want to come talk about your business and what you do.
Exactly.
Get your name out there more, especially something that's within the same industry.
I feel like the most resistance that we really get is just people being shy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, it really hasn't been that many people that have.
The one person, and I'll call him out too, because I'm his friend, but Bryce Carter. I don't know why he won't come and do it. He's got a business. It's a really good business. Everyone, maybe he's cocky. Maybe he's like, I'm going to talk about. Everyone knows about me anyways. But
you definitely need to get him without.
He would be a fun person to have on.
I too. Yeah.
But it's just a matter of
congrats to him. But
I think he's won, right?
He was in. Or one of the spots.
Yeah. Is it official yet? Or
well, it's the primary, but I think it was.
Well, the count, because I saw that the Gila Herald did a post that said this is where it's at right now.
Oh, I thought maybe you and I looked at the same thing.
I think that it's pretty much official. Yeah. I don't know if the county has come out and said, here are the winners, but I know, congrats to PJ Allred. Congrats to...
That was a huge one I heard.
Yeah.
Congrats, PJ. Yeah, my friend, my dad's best friend growing up. So
he's everyone's friend, man. Yeah. He's such a good guy. PJ, he did the podcast too. Chafin Woods was another winner who we actually just posted his podcast today. Yeah. So,
he won even without our endorsement.
Yeah, that was huge. Those numbers were good without us. So, and then who are the other two? Mark Vining and
Randy Rice.
Rice. Yeah. So, all great guys. Yeah. And so, anyways, Presley Moes with M Industries, right? Motes Industries is what the N stands for.
Yeah, that's what it stands for. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
So my parents started M Industries Inc. It's been probably 30 years ago now. When I was very little. Really? Yeah, I just turned 30 this year, and so it was when I was little. So I don't even know the exact age of the company, which isn't great. I probably shouldn't admit that, but they've done a lot of different things with it. And here recently, they've been building the last 10 years or so here in this area.
So they kind of created the LLC for other things.
Yeah, they've had a skill crane business, a uniform business, a bunch of different things. It's been an umbrella company, if you will, for a bunch of different things. But So what's cool about it is it hasn't just been one specific thing. They flipped homes for years in Las Cruces. I was actually born in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So they flipped homes and built over there. And then whenever they moved here, eventually started building here as well. And so it's kind of just grown and, turned into a specialty of custom homes. And I joined the team about 2.5 years ago and been grateful to be a part of it and enjoyed expanding it. My mom primarily does the custom home side of it all. And it's been awesome to be able to learn from her and work with her. And it's really cool to see a female, do as well as she does, or as we do in a male dominated industry. And I think that's part of what makes her so different. It's just those feminine touches and the scheduling and everything.
It's funny that that you mentioned she's a female and a male dominated. Because one thing I say about your company all the time is when you guys give like a projected completion date, every time I've been involved with one of your deals is you've hit that date. Like that's important to you. And maybe that's a female thing, right? Because in this industry, that's not super common. A lot of other contractors, which it's kind of just accepted that here's our estimated date. It's not uncommon for it to be 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes longer after that. So,
which speaking of, is extremely fast for the industry. The days from your start time to finish time, compared to a lot of builders, I've noticed it's like way shorter time.
It is, and I have to give all credit to my mom, because we on average are 4 months or less from start date to completion. And then we break ground, and there's some time in there that's, not accounted for because we do a full custom plan, and that can take a month to 6 months to a year.
And that's usually because the borrower or the buyer.
Oh, 100%.
Customers deciding what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why we say, look, that's 100% on you, how long that phase of it is going to take. But when we break ground, we're going to close this 4 months. We have 2 bigger projects we're working on. One has a basement, one is just larger. And so those will add a month to 2 months max, but we're always 4 months or less from groundbreaking to close.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've heard, and I'm guessing this, well, you just said, I've heard that you only do one at a time, but that's not true, right?
No, so that was true when my mom was running solo. Her big thing, and still to this day, one of our biggest things is we only take on as many projects as we can start and finish, because unfortunately, it's really common in the industry for people just to say yes to everything and then to be spread really thin, right? And so right now, we currently do 6 to 8 homes a year. And that just depends on the scale of the project. Like I mentioned, we're doing 2 bigger ones currently right now. And so we're only doing 6 this year. And so before I joined the team, my mom was doing 3 to 4 homes within a year. And now we're doing 6 to 8. And so and we've found too that people really appreciate clear timelines. Like we're currently signing clients into the middle of next year right now.
Yeah.
And even though people understand we're not going to start on their home for 6 to 9 months, they appreciate the fact that we have a planning phase to get through, which takes time, but also they know when we're going to start and when we're going to finish their home.
And they can make plans based off of that. Yeah. Which is super important for people.
Yeah, it's huge. And there's a huge cost savings to that too. We're not the cheapest builder in town, and we're not the most expensive by any means. We're right in the middle. And what people don't understand is when they own their own property and they're building a custom home, they have to finance that project. As you guys know, banks don't like a third player in that mix, right? If you own the land, you have to finance it. And so there's a huge cost to that, whether you're doing a construction loan or hard money loan. The difference between a month, 6 months in build time is a huge difference in cost to these people. And so that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is that build time while not sacrificing quality, because I'm sure some people think, oh, well, they built so fast, it's not a great home. And that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. We built a very high quality home. We don't cut any corners. And we found too that our subs love how scheduled we are, because everyone likes knowing, hey, I'm going to be able to show up and everybody before me is going to be done, and I'm not going to be rushed to get out of there. I have my allotted time. And we appreciate our subs staying on schedule, and they appreciate it too, just because they know they can get in and get out when they need to.
And I think that also helps with the quality of work that's being done. Because I know that, when you have an electrician, or you have, people that are putting up the sheetrock, and they're supposed to be done. And then there's the electrician, and then they keep getting in each other's way. And then the electrician messes up a sheet, you start to just get those little things that kind of affect the finished project. So being structured like that yeah, it's quick, but because it's so structured, it helps you really put out a better quality product.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you guys have, your mom started about 4 a year, you're at 6 to 8 now with you. What are your guys' plans? Are you happy with that amount?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we've realized kind of our capacity, the last half of last year, we did 4 homes. We started and completed 4 homes within 6 months. And that was really with just 2 of us, our limit, if you will, because we never want to get to a point where we're sacrificing quality, missing things, and we don't really have any ambition to grow beyond that, especially my mom's planning on retiring in the next 3 years or so. And so at that point, I'll go out on my own and get licensed. And that's what Motes Homes is. She allows me to advertise my future name. We have a business set up, but we're not operating underneath it. And that's why we advertise M Industries Inc. Motes Homes, because one day, whenever they retire, I'll start going out on my own and it'll be Motes Homes.
Continue with that makes sense.
And so that's
I wondered about that.
Yeah, that's exactly why we advertised 2 names. She was kind enough to let me throw that in the mix. So that way, one day when people see it, it's not like a foreign name. It's not confusing, right?
Super smart on your end to already kind of put that out there so that it's already one, even though it's 2 different companies. That's super smart on your end.
So strictly custom homes right now. Never plans to do any spec homes, anything like that?
Well, so we did end up doing 1 spec home last year, mostly because the client backed out of it. We've talked about doing spec homes, and the biggest reason that we haven't is we just have homes that are pre-sold. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to take on the risk of doing a spec home whenever we have enough work lined up. We're grateful to be as busy as we want to be. And that's primarily why we don't do spec homes.
And it's awesome having different companies with different goals.
Oh, 100%.
Because we talk to a different contractor that says, I only want to do spec homes. And their reasoning is, I don't want the stress of having to deal with the homeowner, because that does add an element of a whole different element of stress for you, because you have people that are changing their minds, or they're wanting to be involved from the time the concrete is poured until the time, the loan closes, when the house is completely done. And so when you have that, I'm sure it can get, I don't know what the right word is, stressful or maybe frustrating because there's all kinds of people out there that
I've already learned there's a lot of great clients and there's frustrating clients, but that's the case in any customer service industries. There's going to be some people that you just click with and they like your processes, how you do everything, and then there's other people that, even though you're delivering a great product, like they're just frustrated with you for whatever variety of reasons. And that's just customer service. My mom and I always joke that, it's job security. It takes a certain amount of patience and organization to be able to deal with clients day in and day out. And that's why a lot of custom home builders get burnt out, is they just get sick of dealing with people. Yeah. And some people are great and some people are frustrating to deal with, but that's the case in any customer service industry. I'm sure you guys have the same experience with certain
100%. With all my social media feed is filled with things related to my job, right? And so I saw a meme or a picture recently that said, well, I guess we won't be closing today. And there's the tape test, where the buyer goes through and they just built a house and they put tape. And there's a picture of this living room where literally the wall was just covered in tape, which, who knows, maybe the what's it called? The texturing was really bad. So you probably could just put one thing of tape that we didn't redo the whole texturing. But it was like a combination.
That's one thing too that we've had some people kind of be surprised by, is we don't do a final home inspection, if you want to call it. Like, we really pride ourselves on catching everything. We don't want you to have to come through and point out this little detail, that little detail. The last couple of weeks for us are really us going through the house, and we clean all the houses ourselves. My mom's been big on that from day one, because as you're going through and really detailed clean, I don't know if you've cleaned a new construction home, but they're disgusting. Dust everywhere. It's as dirty as it's going to get. And we like to do that because you notice every little detail in the house that needs to be fixed. And then two, we warranty a home for an entire year, everything about it. And so if we happen to miss anything, which isn't very often, then we always come back and fix it. And that's something that we also pride ourselves on, because all of our warranty work, I mean, no one loves doing warranty work, if we're being totally honest, but that's also what differentiates you, you know, after the fact, after you've been paid, you know, it's kind of a character test. Are you going to actually come back and fix things that people need fixed?
Yeah.
I know a lot of custom builders have like certain things that they allow throughout the build. Is that kind of how you guys run your business, or do you let the buyer put whatever they want in
so
any floor plan?
Yeah, that's really an interesting topic. I'll start with the floor plan. We will build anything you want. And this year is a perfect example. We built a 1,400 square foot home, and we're currently building like a 6,500 square foot home. And so
where's that one at?
It's out south of town.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, and that's the biggest variety we've had in a year, but we will build whatever you want. And it's interesting how a lot of what people want is really answered by budget. You know, this is when you guys come in mind. You have to start with the end in mind. And we're very transparent about pricing. We have, you know, before we even sign anyone, we go over a spec sheet and list everything that we include and don't include. Because the last thing we want is hard feelings, right? To be in the middle of a build, picking stuff out, and people ask, well, why don't you include that? And we have that happen. And then, look, this is on your spec sheet. We talked about this. You signed a contract. You signed a spec sheet. Like, there's no surprises here. Because I think that's one of the most important things when you're picking a builder is transparency and just understanding exactly what they include and don't include. And that can be challenging for people if you've never built a home before, because there's so many details that, you know, now being in this industry, I know and recognize. But before that, like our first build, my mom did for us when we moved here, and we flipped the house before that. So we had a little bit of an idea, but there's just a lot of things that you don't know to ask, right? And I think that's one of the most important things is learning, you know, what your budgets are going to be and just exactly what's going to be included. Because there's a lot of great builders in this valley. You know, there's a lot of good, honest people here. And I think the biggest thing that differentiates us is their speed, like we were talking about, you know, and hitting those deadlines. But there's a lot of great builders. I by no means want to come across as bashing other builders or anything like that, because they build a lot of great, beautiful.
And especially being in this, you know, all of them. You know, and grew up with a lot of them, you know, and they all have friends. And that's why it's good to have different options.
No,
because there's builders that don't want to do custom homes. There's builders that you know, that's what you specialize in. So
exactly.
And you're going to gel a lot better with one client than this guy is. So it's good to have a lot of, and that is something that we're blessed with in this town, is having a lot of really good contractors.
Yes, I agree.
And there's not like a scarcity mindset. Unless everybody knows there's plenty of work.
Exactly.
And back to the budget thing, that's another thing that's really nice about your timeline, is because when you have, you know, builders that are taking 6 months or, you know, 7, 8 months, sometimes a year. In the financing world, a lot can change. And especially this last year, you know, we all experienced, you know, the quickest rate increase that in the history of mortgages, as far as I know. You know, not the highest rates, but the biggest difference from COVID rates of 2.75, 3% all the way up to a 7% in the span of, you know, like a year and a half. That's a big increase. And so if you happen to be approved for a loan amount at X amount in January of 02, January of 03 could potentially, you know, so anyways, it's good that you build those houses so quick, because they're not going to be as big of a difference there.
Definitely. And getting back to Davis's first question, is that's why we like to start with the end in mind, because our price structure is very clear, like, and we do a completely custom floor plan, right? And so, you know, okay, my budget is, you know, X amount. I can get so much livable, so much patio, garage, all those different things, right? And it's interesting too. I always like to joke there's big clients and there's fancy clients, right? There's the people that want to maximize their budget with space, right? And we include a lot of great things. Like my personal home has very few upgrades in it. We feel like we can build a very nice home, you know, for our budgeted price. But there's also the people that really, it's important to them to spend money on upgrades, right? And so it's important to start, you know, with your pre-approval in mind. But not even that, like this year alone, we've had some clients that it's not necessarily about, what they can afford. It's what they want to afford. What's your monthly payment going to be? And then working backwards from there in terms of like your square footage and everything that you're going to put in the house and stuff like that. So to answer your question, we're willing to build whatever people want, but a lot of times we feel like it kind of gets sorted out with their budget constraints. And then, within that, there's choices of space versus, luxuries, if you will. And so it's interesting just to see how a lot of that kind of gets sorted out and they choose what's important to them. And I mean, I feel like our flooring, for example, we have hundreds of options within our included price point. And so it's just interesting to see what's truly important to people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll build whatever you want, a mega house or, a starter home. We're happy to do either one.
How far out are you? And you mentioned that you're already scheduled into next year, obviously.
Yeah. So, we're signing clients right now to break ground middle of next year.
Yeah. So if someone came to you, a new client, you'd be telling them, well, your house won't be done until probably closer to the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So pretty much how we're operating now with doing 6 to 8 is we're starting a home every month, essentially, spaced out maybe a little bit more, just depending on the size of them. And so right now, we would be breaking ground middle of the year, maybe as soon as May. It kind of just depends on how these current clients finish out with their plans, right? It's interesting. Sometimes people will, want something smaller and then figure out they can do bigger. And until the plans are set, we don't know exact structure, right? So we'd be breaking ground anywhere between May to July. Just depends on how things shake out.
Do you run into, so with that being said, sometimes someone might come to you with a set of plans and say, hey, we already have our plans. If you can't start until the end of next or the middle of next year, that's fine. They get on the schedule, and then halfway through that, do they come to you with a different set of plans sometimes? Because I know that a lot of people will change their mind.
Yeah, it's
My plans didn't change that much. Just
it's pretty common to have the plan process change because we do a full custom floor plan and a full plan set. It's very rare that we have people come to us and are just willing to go with one that we have or one that they bring to us, right? And we find that most people really want to like fine tune. And one of my favorite parts of the process is we have a phenomenal plan guy. Shout out to Jared.
But is it
Jared Kirchner?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he's willing to like mesh different plans. And it's really cool to say, hey, take this part, and this part of 3 or 4 different plans. We want the exterior look like this. And he's like a wizard with it. And he can just make it all mesh and work and then start fine tuning from there. And so like, he does an incredible job. It's really fun to see.
So I didn't realize he did that. I didn't realize. Did you know that?
No, if I know Jared.
He's the one of the twins, right?
That's
No.
Jared.
Oh, that's what I thought you said.
No,
okay.
Jared. Yeah.
So which one's Jared? Who's Jared Carter?
So Jared Kirchner.
Is he local?
Yes. Yep. So, but great guy. But he kind of does it on the side. So I don't know if you have to let me shout. He does an incredible job.
Listen, people can always say no.
Yeah.
It's good to have the option to say no.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I'm sure
no,
they'd be fine with that.
It's just really cool to work with people and figure out the very specifics, like fine-tune details of a home, right? And to see him kind of mesh it together and make different things work. And then to see it come to life. That's one of my favorite parts of building is, working with him and the client and really fine tuning something to very specific needs and then seeing it built. It's it's fun.
Does he do all of your plans?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if someone came to you with a set of plans that they had somebody else draw up, you would say, yeah, that's fine, but we're going to have Jared go.
It depends on if it's someone local. Like we'll use other local people's plans. The biggest problem is when people buy a set of plans online.
Yeah.
There's local requirements that we need, right? And so we have to have it redrawn anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of other great plan people in town.
Okay, so you will use it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like next year we're going to use a set of plans from Ace, and there's a lot of great drafting people here. But it's just whenever people bring it in from a website or something, it's usually not a true complete set. You need to redraw it anyways.
Yeah, well, whenever we were thinking about building, or before we built our house, my wife would go online and then we would take that to Doug Griffin. He's like, yeah, these aren't accurate. Like this isn't this true square footage.
That's the craziest thing. We have people get so frustrated. Hey, this size, this is in budget. We drafted and we're like, yeah, that was wrong. That's definitely not the case. But
that's why, I mean, going back to our industry, can't always believe what you see online.
Yeah, you know the truth.
So
yeah.
What's the you were mentioning or talking about how people like to do upgrades or luxurious items? What's the like most outlandish or most unique upgrade that someone's done at the house? Have you had anything crazy? Any like elevators?
That's
Anything
tough.
like that?
No, nothing crazy like that. I mean, the most common one is usually appliances. There's a lot of high-end brands. You know, I'm trying to think about like the craziest one.
It's out of one that your mom did that was insane.
What's
that I
that?
still think is insane.
What's that?
My mom's pantry.
I've never been in your mom's house.
It is
huge.
her pantry's like the size of this room. It is insane. I don't know if that's really an upgrade, but
Yeah.
I would consider that.
I'm sure it is. If there's
I bet your mom-
cabinets, I'm sure.
I bet your mom had to ask my mom, like, "Are you sure?" At least 10 times.
That's funny. It must not be too crazy to her because I can't say my mom's ever told me a story about your mom's
It is.
pantry.
It's like
That's
another
awesome. Yeah, that's pretty common nowadays.
Yeah.
I can't really say anything like too insane.
She's like nicer flooring or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
and that's the interesting thing is a lot of things like we include, you know, a very good budget on everything, but sometimes it's important to them to have a luxury brand of appliances or flooring or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you caught me off guard with that.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that's like really just, wow, that was nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can testify to the quality of house that you guys built. We just closed on the loan for Thomas Biggs, who is probably your most recent client that closed, and that's a beautiful house.
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
I was looking at those pictures and you did a great job in that house.
It turned out great. He did a really cool kitchen, and I mean, granted, owning El Charo, you like food,
Yeah.
but his range and like hood and everything, it's a beautiful kitchen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It was
nice
really,
home.
really nice house.
I imagine in this 6,500 square foot house you're building, there's going to be some pretty cool stuff.
Definitely. And that's the really interesting thing too. And you're talking about, you know, like essentially if you can or can't do things. And you know, the bigger you go, the more stuff that we include, and the smaller you go, the less stuff you get. It's just a price point thing, right? And make sure it's either affordable or adequate to what you're building. And we have 2 larger homes we're doing this year, and both of them have full custom kitchens. You know, the really big one, they came up with this idea and we had to kind of work it a couple different ways before we ended on something that was what I would say, you know, adequate for their needs, but also aesthetically pleasing. They're gonna have like 3 different cooktop surfaces: an induction cooktop, a gas range cooktop, and then also a griddle built into the island. They're also gonna have double ovens. Like it's gonna be an amazing kitchen with a huge hood over the top of all of it. So it's gonna be pretty cool. You'll have to keep an eye out on social media for that one.
That's awesome. Yeah. In our house, we have a lot of kids, so we wanted a big fridge. So you find these huge fridges, but they're super expensive.
They're super expensive.
So what we did, and this is all my wife, she's a genius for thinking of it, we have 2 very simple fridges right next to each other. One door opens this way and one door opens this way. So it looks like a nice, big, expensive fridge, but it's really just,
That's
it
awesome.
looks
I feel
really
like a
good.
lot of people are doing that now. I've seen, since I saw yours, which was the first, I feel like I've seen like 5 or 6 people do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It makes sense because, I mean, those big fridges are
$10,000.
a lot. Yeah.
Plus the freezer's $10,000.
Right. And so, we just have it's the fridge on top and the freezer on the bottom, the drawer, and it looks really good. And
That's
you
awesome.
really can't tell because they're right up next to each other. So,
That's a very clever idea. I'll have to keep that in mind.
yeah, shout out Shaylee. And I'm sure she saw it on Pinterest or something. So,
Oh yeah.
it wasn't an original idea, whether she said it was or not.
Yeah, that is one interesting thing is like Pinterest isn't always a reality, right? Especially being in a smaller town. Sometimes our suppliers
I
are.
hope my wife was listening right now. This is not always a reality.
It's not. And you know, my mother-in-law they've built a couple of custom homes, and she always talks about too, you know, what looks pretty on Pinterest, or even aesthetically pleasing, isn't always the most functional. You know?
Yeah.
I think floating shelves are a great example of that. And I'm not saying floating shelves are a bad idea, but they get dusty, you know, and you can see all the stuff that's out on them. And if they're by a cooktop, you get grease on them or whatever, you know. And so it's just, I think it's important as you're building a custom home to think through, okay, is this aesthetically pleasing, and is it worth it to me for the maintenance of that, or is it just like, is that the only reason I want it, you know? And I guess it's a use value proposition. It's always interesting to me what's worth it to people for a look versus like function. And I'm obsessed with always trying to find out, spaces, right? Everything. What's the most functional and not too small, but not too big. And I always encourage people whenever doing a floor plan to, measure rooms, figure out what's actually the good functional size space for you in that particular room, because that's a different answer for everybody.
Yeah. Right. We've built 2 houses, and after each one, as soon as we moved into it, we're like, oh, I wish we would have done this. Yeah. I think that's just something but it's always outlets, especially outside outlets. We're always like, why isn't there an outlet right here?
That's fixable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a pain.
It's just a pain.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. My mom says this, and it's so true. No matter how many homes you build, like there will always be something you want to change.
Right.
No home is ever perfect. We always appreciate it when clients have either flipped houses or built houses. Like, you understand, like, we're going to do our very best to get it as perfect as possible, but it's literally impossible to build a perfect house. Right. There's just too many finishes and people and alternate textures touching, and like it's impossible to build an absolute perfect home. But I think it is important to get as close as you can to perfect for people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Do you feel like you have to talk people out of things?
Or no, it depends on the client. I think that kind of goes back to different clients' personalities and stuff. And occasionally, but not super often, thankfully. I think some people, you can tell when stuff's really important, I guess. And there's a time when you have to just make things happen and get creative. And also there's a time to tell people like, yeah, that's just a bad idea. And we walk a fine line of expressing our opinion and also like sharing our expertise. Like there's a fine line there between telling people like, you're going to have issues with this for X, Y, and Z, or if it's just, a personal preference. And learning that has been good for me to learn when I just think something versus like, hey, this is actually a bad idea for the long run,
That's super similar in our industry. Like we'll have a client that comes in and says, all I care about is the interest rate. I want the lowest interest rate as possible. And
that's a lot of money to get there.
Yeah. And it doesn't always make sense. And you can kind of try to explain that to them. And they're like, they don't care.
Especially right now.
Especially right now.
I want the lowest interest rate possible, all pay points. And it's like, well, right now the speculation is we may see interest rates come down over the next several months, and so paying points right now just may not be the best. Yeah.
So a lot of times they don't care, and that's when you're just like, all right, I've given my recommendation, but in the end it's your loan, so I will tailor it however you want. So sometimes you just gotta bite your tongue. Do what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because, like you said, you're going to share your opinion and, what you've learned and what you think, but that doesn't always mean that it's what they want. For them to walk away as a good experience, they need to get what they want, not necessarily, what might be best in our opinion for them.
They always have that expert family member that gives their opinion. His opinion always trumps the professionals.
Yes, we've run into that. No, it's interesting too, just how building is so different in different regions of the U.S. Like even compared to Utah, how they build homes is completely different than here, and what they need to do for foundations and things like that. So it's interesting just how different that is. Where I don't know if that's truly different for you guys, if certain things are different, but I imagine Lindian is pretty similar, but no, it's not.
Well, the loan types are pretty much the same across the board. There's different programs in different states that, like New Mexico, there's a down payment assistance program that works really well, but it's specific to that state.
Interesting.
I also think that it comes down to the type of people in different areas. It's different people, different areas for whatever reason have different views on certain things,
or also like Texas, for example. Texas, they tout cheap homes, like inexpensive homes, but the tax rates in Texas are crazy, and the homeowners insurance in Texas, the rates are insane. So
I've heard that.
When we're, I haven't done a lot of loans in Texas, but when we're figuring out, okay, what's a person's budget, it's not just going to be what's their interest rate going to be. It's going to be how much is their taxes and how much is their homeowners insurance going to be, because that's going to affect their purchasing power by a crazy amount.
Which is important for us to know, because if we're qualifying someone in Texas, but we're used to doing loans in Arizona. We're using the estimates that we're used to using in Arizona. All of a sudden, we're pre-qualifying them for, you could do this big of a house or this much of a loan amount. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, your taxes are how much? Like that affects how much they qualify for.
We were in a meeting the other day with an insurance agent that does a lot of business in Texas. And he says he's seen insurance premiums more than $10,000. And we're used to, closer to $1,500 here.
A high one.
Yeah.
Like sometimes under 1,000. So yeah, a $10,000 insurance premium is like mind blowing. That's a lot of money. I would say if you're a veteran and you're tax exempt, go buy in El Paso because you can get a really nice house. And if you're not having to pay those property taxes, you're going to get a lot nicer house there than you are here.
Try to pay a $10,000 premium every year, even breaking it up monthly. That's almost like
that's crazy. It's insane. That's insane.
I think we don't realize how blessed we are with our tax rates and our insurance rates here.
That's one thing I'll say about this valley is we're very blessed to have never seen like the crazy home spikes, like Phoenix, other areas like that. Like Utah is a great example. Yeah. We're very blessed to have never seen such crazy peaks, just for affordability. That's why so many people love living here. And I think because of that, we haven't seen as big of a lull coming back down for people, building and things like that here, just because things have stayed more affordable.
We're in a bubble. Yeah, absolutely.
But also, we're still in a place that has a huge demand for houses.
Oh, yeah.
So you're right. We are really blessed because we certainly could have seen that and we didn't.
Yeah.
Which is nice for contractors, especially contractors that if you're happy with doing eight houses a year, I mean, you're never gonna not be able to do that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, not gonna look. It's just there's always. I tell people all the time, like that are asking me about, interest rates are higher. It's, house business, and like honestly, it's still good. Like people still. That it's the industry that we're in, people are always going to have to buy a house for one reason or another,
Yeah.
So I've had a few friends call me and are like, how are you doing? I'm like, fine. Yeah, I'm great.
We need some money.
I don't need it, but I'll take it.
Yeah. That's hilarious. It is interesting.
So one thing we also like to talk about is not only just your company, which I think we've hit pretty good, but we like to get to know the individual as well.
Yeah.
So tell us your story. Yeah. I mean, I know you mentioned that you grew up you were born in Las Cruces, which we do a ton of business there. So that kind of connects things a little bit. We want to have some people on from Las Cruces actually too.
Great place. I loved living there.
So how long did you live there?
So we lived there till right before I turned 12.
Okay.
Yep. So at that point we moved to Thatcher. My dad grew up in Thatcher and I'm third generation to graduate from Thatcher High School. So the roots run pretty deep there, but my parents moved there when my sister was like 1 year old, and so I was born there. And my mom's originally from Hatch, New Mexico. That's kind of the tie there. Yeah. So we're big chili people. She grew up farming chili, and it's phenomenal stuff. But so close to family, and we still have a lot of family in Cruces and Hatch.
Is it just you and your sister?
No, so I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay. Chelsea's my
older sister. Yep. Yeah. Kelly's my older sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so anyways, we moved here when I turned 12. Proud to be from Thatcher. Obviously played sports and, went to high school here, and then I served a mission in Columbus, Ohio. I always joke that God wants me in Ohio, and I just don't want to be there. The story will make sense a little more down the timeline, I guess. But after my mission, I came back and played football in EA and made it through the junior college journey. I hated watching Last Chance U. It was pretty accurate, despite like the nice uniforms and the money side of that. It was not my junior college experience. But I had a great experience playing football at EA, and I kind of bounced around a little bit. And it's a whole long story, so I'll spare you those details. But I met my wife along that journey, and so very grateful for all that side of it. But ended up changing positions from quarterback to tight end when I was here at EA, and then got a scholarship to go play football at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. And that was an amazing,
so back to
challenging experience. Yeah. My first scholarship opportunity was in Ohio. And
how close was that to where you served your mission? Was
it was about 2 to 3 hours away.
Okay.
Yeah. So I serve my mission in Central Ohio, and Bowling Green's like northwest corner. So we're right by the Great Lakes, really close to Michigan. And so it is a different experience, but I mean, the Midwest is great. The people are just kind. It's a really cool place to play college football. I mean, within the state of Ohio, I don't even know how many D1 universities there are. And it's just really cool how big sports are out there. And it was an amazing experience. You know, I had some challenges. I got hurt my first year. I broke my leg. I had to have surgery. 7 minutes into our first game at the University of Oregon. So, you know, really cool environment. It was amazing. And then to get hurt like that. And so, you know, there was a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And so, I mean, it ended up being a little bit of a silver lining because I was on scholarship still while I got my master's degree.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, everything has an upside, right? It's just hard to see in the moment.
Right.
Battling back from injury, I didn't really play much my redshirt junior year. And then worked back and started my senior year, which is a cool full circle, right?
Yeah.
I'm starting and getting hurt, and that kind of sucked my redshirt junior year just because I still have been having tons of issues with my ankle. But, you know, I think going through something like that always makes you better, right? Overcoming adversity, and just the challenges of being in college athletics and trying to perform at a high level. It's very demanding, you know.
We were talking about that a little bit before we hit record. You were saying that someone on his team, well, you go ahead and tell David, like, showed up late.
Yeah, I had a teammate, and I shouldn't say his name because he's in the NFL now, but he was late our very last practice ever, and they send him home like, you're not practicing today. And, you know, like time structure, things like that. Like it's a big deal. You're never late for a meeting unless you want to get mother effed out of the room and not be allowed to practice and, you know, lose your spot, stuff like that. And,
which is good lessons to learn for the remainder of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always laugh because, you know, a large part of being a contractor is you're verifying that things are done right. You know, you're hiring people to do a job, and sometimes you have to call them and fix things. And, you know, a lot of our subs are phenomenal, but every once in a while, you know, grown men get really in their feels about stuff. And I always laugh about it because I was getting mother effed for taking a step, you know, 2 inches the wrong direction, right? You know, like it's super detailed. And, you know, so when people get in their feels about stuff, I just don't understand it. You know, I could go on this whole round about accountability and everything else in today's age, but, you know, I just think it's so important and such a great lesson to play a hard sport and, you know, at a high level like that and to be held accountable. And, you know, it taught me a lot of different things about, you know, self-accountability, especially during COVID. Like we were at home training and doing these super intense training programs at home. You know, a lot of my teammates were like,
on your own,
I'm not doing that. Yeah. And so,
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So during COVID, my wife was working when we were in Bowling Green, and she was put on furlough. So we just came home for a couple of weeks. And so we were, you know, they sent us a training program. And the crazy thing too, is you go from working out in a state of the art college facility, right? So you're at home, maybe you have some weights, maybe you don't, like, and so it was really interesting how they tailored all that. But I mean, the conditioning is really intense at that level. And, it's, you know, you're pushed to your limit. Our strength coach, Coach Tolbert, was, a former military guy. He's an Air Force grad. And, no, excuse me, Navy, he would be upset. I got it wrong. But he trained to like the mental breaking point every day. And so it's super intense, but, it taught me a lot of amazing life lessons that I'm grateful for.
That's awesome. Yeah. So graduated.
Sorry, I got down the whole foot.
No, that's what I'm doing. No, that's what I'm No, that's
so while my senior year, we were training that summer, and then they canceled our season because of COVID, right? And so we're still training, but I was bored. I'd get home at noon and I had nothing to do because all of our classes were online, you know. It was summer too, so we really weren't doing much besides training, and you have like one course usually during the summer. And so I went and got a job selling cars. I had an internship lined up. I mean, I had a finance degree at this point, and I couldn't get a job anywhere or even like an internship. People were laying people off, not hiring interns, right? And I had sold vehicles here at the Horn dealership, right in between like EA and getting my scholarship at Bowling Green. So I had just a couple months of sales experience. And so they hired me, and then our season got kicked back on. And so it's kind of crazy. I was working like just a little bit part-time there, but getting my MBA, selling cars, and playing college football was a pretty wild ride. But I started working there, and then I graduated or excuse me, when we got done with our season, I was only like 6 months for graduating with my MBA, and I was awarded an extra season at that point. But I needed to have a second surgery on my ankle. Like my ankle was starting to go again. And I was just ready, honestly, at a point to move on in life. And we're getting ready to have a baby. And so I was promoted to the finance manager at that dealership and worked there for about a year. And while I finished my MBA. And then at that point, especially having a kid, we were just ready to come home. It was a really cool experience being newlywed, to go experience a different part of the country. And kind of just figure us out, if you will. I think it's an awesome thing to kind of go do your own thing when you're first married. But, having a little one, we were just ready to be closer to family, and I was ready for a career change. And so that's when I decided to come build homes with my mom. And we had always kind of talked about it.
So that's what I was going to ask. Was that kind of always your plan? Was to take over
to be honest, it wasn't. And like I specialized when I was getting my finance degree in personal finance. And so whenever we moved back, I actually had an opportunity to go work for a financial group, and they managed probably about 70% of college football's money. So they're Bowling Green grads, and they're big players in the financial management of college coaches. So that's kind of their niche, which is a pretty cool niche, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're awesome people. It was a pretty tough decision to choose between that versus coming home and learning this business from my mom and, going out on my own one day. And, it was a challenging decision, but, we're very grateful that we chose to move back here, and it's great being close to family, and I love what I do. And, it's been amazing, but that wasn't always the plan, and I think COVID kind of threw a wrench in it. And this is like the prime example of life, right? You think you're going to go one way. And I was planning on being a financial advisor. And so it's funny just how things kind of change a little bit, but my mom actually has a finance degree as well. And so it's interesting working within construction, like kind of with the finance focus. And I think a lot of the construction industry as a whole has a bad reputation with robbing Peter to pay Paul, and thankfully work in a good community where that's usually not the case, right? But it's a worry of a lot of people, and I think that's one thing that makes us different too, is just how we operate. But I'm very grateful for my finance degree. It's a little bit of a hobby, I would say, like personal finance and investing and things like that. But obviously I can use that in my own life. But that's really my background. It wasn't always a plan. And it's kind of funny because Bowling Green actually has a phenomenal construction management degree. And I have some teammates that got that degree. So when you're looking back, it would have made way more sense for me to get a construction management degree, right? But
that's usually the case, though. I mean, as far as where you start or where you end up, I mean, I have my degree in Parks and Recreation Management, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing now, other than the steps that I took to get that and the path that it led me on. If I didn't get that degree, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. Even though it has nothing to do with what I'm doing, it put me on that path.
Yeah, it's really funny too how, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a dentist, right? And then the older I got, I wanted to be an orthodontist. And just the more you kind of learn about those industries or whatever, it's really interesting how sometimes, what your interests are, what just life throws at you too. It doesn't always make the most sense to go into a specific industry or something like that. But it was a very intentional move to move back here and be able to spend a number of years with my mom building and to be able to learn from her process. And then also just kind of get my feet wet and learn everything before I tried to go get licensed and go out on my own and all that. So I'm super grateful she took me on, because obviously she took on more of a workload to be able to teach me. Training someone is not a simple task, and it's, it's challenging, but I hope she feels like it's, been worth it. And we've been able to expand, which has been awesome, and be able to do more.
Well, I imagine as a parent that's holds value to her too, being able to pass something on to her son, to continue kind of something that she started to, that I'm sure that's why she's doing it, at least one of the reasons.
Yeah, definitely. If I wasn't her son, she wouldn't be doing it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It becomes like a legacy.
For sure. Yeah. And it's been really cool to be able to spend time with her, and see her in her element, if you will. It's been a lot of fun. We enjoy working together. Yeah, it's been awesome.
That's cool. Where are your siblings at now? Where does Chelsea live?
So Chelsea lives in town. She actually lives right next door to me. Yep. She's an attorney for Honeywell.
Since when?
About 2.5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's married. She just had her third baby. So
I guess I must
to Chelsea and Jared.
get out in the town more.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Chelsea in years.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Welcome back 2.5 years ago.
and then Kelly's actually in Okinawa, Japan. She's in the Air Force. She went to the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's first
She's in
lieutenant.
Okinawa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
She's in logistics. Yeah.
Having some pretty cool experiences over there, I'm sure.
She just got married.
Yeah, she got married about a year ago. Yeah. So her and her husband are in Japan, which is really cool. We're excited to go see them next year.
I feel really stupid that I didn't know Chelsea lived here.
No.
Where's Chelsea at?
Down the street. It's hard to keep track of people, especially when you have kids, they have kids. It's life's a lot.
Yeah.
So.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2. Yeah.
Okay.
So our oldest Maddox, he's 3.5, and then Ford, he's our youngest. He's just about to turn 2.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. 2 boys. It's a good time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chelsea and I, quick story about Chelsea. We lived in the same neighborhood in Provo. So I didn't know Chelsea.
Oh, really?
Growing up, she was a year younger than me.
No, she was in school. She was a year younger than me.
Okay,
I think she graduated in 2010.
Yep.
Was mine. Yeah.
So 2 years younger than me. I don't think I had one conversation with her, and then moved to Provo, and she's in my friend group, and
That's awesome.
it's just interesting.
That's a small
Move out of town.
Yeah.
And get to know
people. Yeah.
I mean, Thatcher being.
That's what happens when you're from Thatcher.
I would say there's a pretty high percentage of people that go to Provo from Thatcher. So,
and also join a Thatcher clique.
right. Yeah.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much me. Now, nowadays, we're very busy building and trying to spend time with my wife. And
Where's your wife from?
kids. So she's originally from Utah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we met at the ASU Institute. She wasn't playing volleyball there at the time that we met, but I was visiting that ward with my sister, and she's visiting with her brother, and talked to her after the soccer meeting. There's not a lot of tall, gorgeous 6-foot volleyball players in the world. So when I saw one, I had to go talk to her. Yeah. So, long story short, we dated distance, and then thankfully she said yes to marry me, and have 2 beautiful boys. But she played volleyball at ASU, and that's St. Mary's College of California.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she's a way better athlete than
So this is almost sounding, because I have a son that's turning 2 in December. So I'm guessing my son and your son will probably be going up in school, in the same grade, which sounds like your son's got some good genes.
Yeah, he does have some good
genes. So it'll be fun to watch them play sports together.
For sure. It'll be a lot of fun.
Right on, man. Well, cool. Do you have anything that you want to plug, specifically about Motes Industry or M Industries or Motes Homes?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us really is just helping people understand how quickly we build, and then just how honest and open about the whole process we are, upgrades, everything like that. You approve everything, that there's no questions asked. And the biggest thing, like I said, there's a lot of great builders in town. I don't think there's, this huge quality difference. I can point some out, but that's just because I'm competitive and I want to sign you as a client. Right.
Yeah.
But overall, people build a great home. The biggest difference is our cost savings to you and our timeline, knowing that your home is going to start and finish in 4 months is, really unheard of. And that's our biggest selling point to people, is really what makes us different.
And what a lot of people don't understand is there's value to that, not only monetary value, but literally being able to make plans.
Oh yeah. It's
because it's so big, because in our industry, it's a big deal when something happens, and
it's so stressful.
And even if it's a day later than what they're expecting, they have to change mover. It's stressful.
There's
it's stressful changing locations. And so being that value alone, taking the money outside of it is extremely important. So that's huge. And that's what I always mention to people, is how not only the timeline and the speed, but when you say the house will be done by this date, it's going to be done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we have some clients that I think you guys are doing the loan on, and we're getting ready to finish up the house that Davis, I believe, is working on. And we're order we like 12 days out at this point, and it's going to be ready. And so we pride ourselves on that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Funny story about that is we're building our house just down the street, and I'm acting as the GC, doing it myself. And we started way before these guys, and we're not even close.
Well, you could
so that has been kind of depressing. I mean, kudos to you guys. It's great. But that's been the depressing thing for me is watching Hunter and Kenzie's house just go up super quick, and ours just.
You're getting there though.
Dragging our feet, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that's a testament to
what you guys are. I appreciate it. And you can definitely save yourself some money in building your own home, but you have to account for the additional interest in doing that and all that. But it's work. The reality is, like, we have a job for a reason, and
I don't know how he's doing it.
Like, here's the other advantage that you have as a GC is. These subs know they're never going to have to answer to me again.
Yeah.
So they don't care about me.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, like,
that's a really good point.
I'm not going to be a returning client to them. So they, like,
yeah. And that was one of the other points I was going to bring up is you're saving yourself money, which is awesome. Everyone loves saving money, but there's a work side of it, right? Like it takes time to do it and, effort. But the biggest thing is we have a repeat relationship with all of our subs, right?
Yeah.
So when we call them, they answer the phone. When we ask them to fix something, they fix something. But that's probably one of your biggest uphill battles in building your own home is understanding that you have to look at it as you're a one and done for them probably, and they treat you that way. And so it can be challenging, scheduling people, and frustrating for that reason. Yeah. It's hard to get them there on time, and then also to get them to fix things just because they know that.
The other thing that I'm learning is I have a lot of friends that are in the industry that are subs, and before starting the whole thing, my thought was, oh yeah, they're my friends. They're going to be great. They're going to hook me up. I think it's the total opposite. It's even worse. Like, no, they've all done a great job, but as far as like the customer service aspect, it's been, he's my friend. He'll be fine with whatever when I'm able to get it done, I'll get it done. Yeah. And so that's, for me, that's been like the biggest eye-opening thing because, and watching Hunter and Kenzie's house go up super quick, I know these are the things that are the reason for that.
Yeah. And I think we have noticed that there's two different types of people. There's people that want to build their own home. They're willing to go through all those headaches and the work and all that. And then there's the people that aren't. And, I don't think there's really a threat to what we do for that reason. There's the people that understand, that side of it and are willing to still do it. And then there's others like, no, I'm just going to hire someone to do it.
And every time I've talked to somebody that has even considered like doing it, I'm like, coming from a guy that's in the middle of it right now, this is not something you want. Unless you could quit your job full time and put all your focus into this, because otherwise you're going to be working on this forever.
Here's the camps that I sit in. I was talking to Davis the last couple of days about we need a shed, and Davis is like, "You should just build your own." And then I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't even want to build my own shed, let alone my own house. Yeah, it's just the time. Like, I could get it done, but I don't know if I want the headache.
Yeah. So we have done those in the past. I would advise you like a metal building. We built a really cool like 24 by 24 shop for someone. It's awesome. Just a closed cell foam and the whole inside has a mini split on it.
Dude, I'm talking like a 10 by 15 shed. I don't even want to do that.
I don't know the cost. I haven't quoted one, but you might be better off just getting like a shed corner one. Yeah.
I was looking at it.
It might be worth it.
But
just depends on what you're willing to do.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to ask you. So with the houses that you do, with the financing side, are you doing more? Are people using hard money most of the time?
Primarily.
Okay. So have you had any experience with actual construction loans?
No, we haven't. And I know we've talked about this in the past, and our biggest concern is always just our speed, right? Having to halt, have someone come out, inspect it, and then pay us to proceed. Mm-hmm. Because we have our own, lined up so tightly, there's concerns with that slowing us down. And, but, I know you've said that your guys' process would allow us to still build as quick as we do.
Yeah. And then honestly, we do both. If I'm being completely honest, as far as ease of the whole process, hard money is the way to go. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and lie about that. the thing is we're blessed in this valley to have an abundance of usually an abundance of different hard money lenders. That's not always the case. So, construction loans have their place and they're important and we can do them. But yeah, especially in this valley, if you can do hard money, it's usually the best answer.
I think the biggest advantage of doing a construction loan is if you don't have the funds to come up with to pay for your land, then you can make that work with a construction loan. Otherwise, I try to push hard money.
Me too.
And it's really hard to deny just the ease of it, like you're saying, especially building as quick as we do. And we have a great relationship with several hard money lenders here, and they understand and trust, that we're doing things properly. And so it's awesome to be able to use hard money to build as quick as we do.
There's just more red tape with construction. You have a bank, if you want to call it that, that's involved, and whenever they're involved, it's more complicated.
Yeah, it is. And it's crazy too, because we built so quickly, like it doesn't cost people as much because of our efficiency, right?
Yeah, because that's a good point. Right. Hard money, usually your interest is going to be higher. And so when it's taking a year to build, then maybe consider doing construction loan because interest isn't going to be as high. But 4 months on the higher interest.
Yeah, it usually ends up being more like 9% instead of 15%. Yes, with how quickly we build.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool, man.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
It was fun. Very
informative. Yeah. I'm glad. I saw some of your other ones, Rick. This is a very informative one, so I hope that's plugged.
This is up there. and honestly, if nothing else comes from it, we have a new setup here that I think is good.
I liked it. I thought it worked great.
Great idea, Dave. I'm a big fan.
So cool. And hopefully the sound issue will be a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully my voice isn't too much. A lot of friends harass me that I'm too loud, but that's all right.
No, we like loud. Honestly, I would much rather talk to a loud person than a soft.
Oh yeah, when you're having to constantly ask people, and then you feel bad, and then you get annoyed that you're constantly having to ask them. They're annoyed you're asking. It's all bad.
And then you don't ask, and then you never know what to say. Yeah,
it's much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, man. Well, thank you guys.
Cool. Yeah,
appreciate
it.
Awesome. Like Gucci.